Now, earlier on, I was talking all about where bats navigate throughout the course of the Isle of Purbeck, but how do they do it? Well, we have to talk about senses, of course. Now, when it comes to people, our priority sense is our sense of sight, which uses light. But for bats, it's all about sound. And you'll, of course, be aware that they do this through echolocation. We can hear one now. Have a listen to this. This is through a bat detector. It's a natterer's bat. A really cool species, one that we saw earlier on in that film where I got to go and meet them. Fantastic species. But how do bats do it? Well, every species does something a little bit different. They echolocate either through their nose or the mouth, depending on the species. So we've got this is a lesser horseshoe bat, and they echolocate through their nose, as you might be able to tell. And the anatomy of their nose essentially amplifies that echolocating ultrasonic frequency. This is a greater horseshoe bat, again echolocating through its nose. And this is a common pipistrelle. This species echolocates through its mouth. All these different techniques, all these different tactics that bats use to navigate their environment. Essentially what they do is they let out these ultrasonic sound waves. They go out into the environment, and if there's an object in front of them, it bounces off the object and returns straight to them. Now, this is all about timing, and this is where it gets really, really interesting. So for us, we judge distance by meters. For bats, like this one here hunting that moth, it's all about time. So they judge in perhaps milliseconds. I don't know what milliseconds is in bat terms, but it's all about how they use sound and time. Sound is really in their DNA. It's a really fantastic adaptation that they've got to accurately hunt fast-moving moths in a fast-moving environment. Really, really cool animals. But of course, if you are their preferred prey species, the moth as we've just seen, well, how do you outwit the bat with that really important echolocation? Well, that's a really good question, and there's some really cool science to explain it. So let me move my bat over here. Now, imagine, use your imagination here, I am a sound wave, I am invisible, and this ball is the tip of that sound wave. Now, it comes out of the bat and it travels along to my moth here, and what happens is it bounces off the moth and it comes back to the bat, and then the bat is able to immediately know where that moth is, and very sadly for the moth, it's game over. However, there is something called acoustic camouflage. Now, a lot of species will use visual camouflage to hide themselves. Moths use acoustic camouflage, and this one here has a furry body. So when my sound waves come out of the bat, what it does is it hits on to the body there, and it lands, it's absorbed by all this fur and all of this hair. So the moth, in this case, is safe. But when you look at the moth as a whole, you might notice the wings are hairless. So how on earth do they manage to stay undetected by the bats? Well, have a look at this. This is an emperor moth, beautiful species, and a really amazing design, because if you look really closely, in all Lepidoptera, so moths and butterflies will have this. This isn't fur, this is a close-up of the wings, and it's all scales. Now, new research at Bristol University by Mark Holderigg and his team have found the most amazing new piece of science, which I'm so pleased to bring to you tonight. It's a whole new way of looking at materials and looking at bioacoustics. So let me have a look. This is a magnified moth wing with all of the different scales here. And the first thing you'll notice is the scales are all different shapes and sizes. And there is very good reason for that. So when the sound wave comes on in, these start to vibrate. It manifests, sound waves manifest in vibrations. So they start to vibrate. And every singular scale with a different size is able to basically absorb a different frequency of sound from the bats that are echolocating. And when the scales work together as a whole, it is like this sound blocker. They can basically absorb 85% of the echolocating bat's sonar signals, which is just mind-blowing, especially when you consider that a moth wing is about 1/10 of a millimetre. So actually it goes beyond our engineers. This is the most kind of soundproof material that we know about, especially at this width as well. So amazing science by Mark and the team at Bristol University, really mind-blowing stuff.